So when you hear the name Tata, what comes to mind? Maybe it's cars, right? Or steel, or hey, maybe even the tea you're drinking. But here's the thing. In India, and really across the world, this name is so much more than just a giant corporation. We're talking about an institution that's been shaping a nation for over 150 years, and it's all built on one single powerful idea.
And this quote, this really gets right to the heart of what the Tata Group is all about. It's a philosophy that pretty much flips the traditional business model on its head. I mean, instead of just measuring success by the bottom line, by profit, they measure it by their impact on society and national development. It's a totally different way of thinking.
So that brings us to the big question for this explainer, right? How on earth did one company become such a massive pillar of a whole nation's progress? How does that even happen? Well, the answer is, it's pretty surprising and honestly kind of inspiring.
All right, let's dive into that. To really get the answer, we can't just look at what Tata does, we have to look at what it is. Because its whole foundation, it's built on this really unique, almost radical idea about ownership and purpose.
And you know, this secret sauce, it's not some super complicated business strategy you'd learn in a textbook. Nope, it's actually much more fundamental than that. It all comes down to one simple question. Who owns the company?
Okay, and here it is. This is what makes Tata basically one of a kind in the corporate world. Take a look at this. A whopping 66%, 2/3 of the main parent company, Tata Sons, isn't owned by the family or by your typical shareholders. It's owned by charitable trusts. Just let that sink in for a second.
So what does that actually mean? Well, it has this huge real-world impact. It means the majority of the profits don't just go to make a few people super rich. Instead, that money gets funneled directly back into society. We're talking funding for hospitals, schools, cutting-edge scientific research, you name it. So you've got to be wondering, where did an idea this radical even come from? Well, to figure that out, we have to rewind. Let's go all the way back to the beginning and meet the guy who started it all, the visionary who laid this incredible foundation. Okay, so let's set the scene here. The year is 1868. India is under British colonial rule, and pretty much all the major industries are owned by foreigners. But this one man, Jamsetji Tata, he had a completely different vision. He wanted to build Indian industries for Indians to create self-reliance and, crucially, to lift society up. And he built this whole vision on 4 key pillars that all connect. First, you get industrial self-sufficiency. That creates the wealth to then fund top-notch education. You need infrastructure to support both of those things, and woven through all of it, at the very core, was social welfare. This wasn't just a dream, it was the actual blueprint for everything Tata would ever do.
And look, this wasn't just some nice-sounding mission statement on a piece of paper. Not at all. They immediately got to work, turning this vision into actual, tangible things. Steel, power, literally the building blocks of a modern nation.
Let's take Tata Steel, for example. This wasn't just the first big steel plant in Asia, it was the backbone for India's entire infrastructure. We're talking railways, bridges, dams. But here's the really mind-blowing part. They were pioneering employee welfare, pensions, healthcare, housing, decades, literally decades before any laws required them to. They didn't just build a factory, they built an entire city, Jamshedpur, for their workers. And it's the exact same story with Tata Power. Back then, they started by bringing electricity to India's cities, literally lighting the path for progress. Now, fast forward to today, and that same purpose has just evolved. The company is now a huge leader in renewable energy, taking on modern challenges and really pushing India's switch to a green economy.
So from those foundational industries, steel and power, the Tata Group has just exploded. It's expanded into pretty much every part of modern life you can think of, operating on a massive global scale. But the crazy thing is, they've still held on to that original core philosophy.
Okay, so let's talk about the modern era. Think about this. Long before anybody was calling India a global IT powerhouse, Tata had the foresight to create Tata Consultancy Services. You probably know it as TCS. That one move was a huge driver of the country's entire tech revolution.
And the scale of TCS today, it's just hard to even wrap your head around. It's not just a big company. We're talking about one of the largest employers of skilled professionals on the planet. It's created hundreds of thousands of jobs and is a major player in digital transformation everywhere.
And that same idea of building up the nation, it doesn't just stop in the digital world. It goes right into the physical world too. I mean, just look at the roads in India. Tata's mission there has been to make cars, to make mobility accessible for millions of people.
Tata Motors was absolutely instrumental in making cars something the Indian middle class could actually afford. And hey,
Just like we saw with Tata Power, they're adapting for the future. Right now, they're leading the charge into electric vehicles in India, building a whole sustainable transport system for the future.
And seriously, the list just keeps going. From the world-famous Taj hotels to their big pushback into aviation, all the way down to the salt and the tea you might have in your kitchen right now. The Tata Group has become this trusted name you see in almost every part of daily life. So, what's next? What does the future hold for a group like this? Well, for Tata, it really just means taking that same century-old philosophy, that community-first way of thinking, and applying it to the biggest challenges we're all facing today.
So, looking ahead, they're really zeroing in on today's biggest issues. That means a huge focus on things like environmental sustainability and pushing digital innovation forward. But it's all guided by that same old principle of inclusive, ethical growth. The goal has never changed. As the business gets bigger, society has to rise with it.
You know, if you had to boil down more than 150 years of history into just one single idea, this would be it. It's the belief that business doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. The entire Tata model is proof that you can be profitable and purposeful. You can be successful and ethical. The two can absolutely go hand in hand.
And ultimately, that's the real takeaway here. The name Tata isn't just a brand, it's a promise. It's a commitment that's been honored for more than a century, weaving the company so tightly into the fabric of the nation that it literally helped build it.
So you see, the story of Tata isn't really just about one company's success. It's this powerful real-world case study that leaves all of us with a pretty big question to think about. In a world that's so often driven by profit and nothing else, what could happen if more businesses decided to build on a foundation of purpose?